Now, one of the leading categories of watches out there is going to be the dive watch. And there are plenty of luxury dive watches out there, and many are going to be overlooked. An excellent example of one that is, I would say, overlooked is the SuperOcean collection of divers from Breitling. In this video, I want to look at one of my favorite watches from the modern SuperOcean collection that I think is just a bit slept on, the SuperOcean Heritage B20. First in this video, what we're gonna do is discuss the SuperOcean history, then get into the general overview, review of this piece, and then where this particular SuperOcean sits. Let's jump in. So before we jump into this video, I do want to mention a couple new releases on TeddyBaldassarre.com. First with the Oris Upcycle. Now this dial and approach with the Aquis familiar architecture. Now the dial there is made with fully recycled PET plastic. Oris has always been known for their work in ocean conservation and efforts in that arena. So this is just another watch that really is in alignment with that mission from the brand. And I think it's a pretty cool execution. Very different, a bit polarizing, but I think it's very unique in a year where pretty much all we're seeing is green dials. In addition, we also have the khaki field bronze from Hamilton. And I like this watch for two reasons. Love the Hamilton khaki field. You are paying a bit more of a premium here, but in terms of getting into a bronze watch at this price level, I think this is a pretty compelling package for people that want to start testing the waters of the bronze case material. Definitely check them out, TeddyBaldassarre.com. Digging into the history of the Breitling SuperOcean, it's important to start by saying that Breitling's history with dive watches goes way back to 1957. Only a few years after the introduction of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms and the Rolex Submariner. In contrast to virtually all other pioneering dive watches of the era, the SuperOcean was initially released in two variations, both as a standard automatic three-hand dive watch known as the 1004, as well as a diver's chronograph, the reference 807. Over the years, Breitling has been overly experimental a number of times in terms of reinterpreting the original SuperOcean. And there has been a wide variety of SuperOcean references out there that look nothing like each other. An aspect that could help explain how this collection has kind of come to be a bit under the radar. In the last decade or so, more and more brands have bought into the heritage craze, with the 2011 release of the Tudor Black Base certainly being a primary contributor. But interestingly, Breitling actually got in there first, releasing the original SuperOcean Heritage way back in 2007 with the design that borrowed from the original 1957 watches, as well as being available in both 38mm, a forward-thinking case size for the time, as well as the more obvious 46mm size that you might have expected from Breitling in 2007, both being powered by a third-party caliber from ETA. In more recent years, no doubt with the help of George Kern's influence since he took over at the helm of CEO, Breitling released the SuperOcean Heritage B20 in 2017, this time with a 42 and a 46mm variant, but more importantly, Breitling upgraded the new watch with the Breitling B20, a movement made possible with the exchange of movement technologies with Tudor, as well as the addition of a ceramic bezel insert. As is often the case with Breitling, the SuperOcean Heritage collection today is broad, spanning over 30 variants, including a couple of additional sizes, dial colors, and even a chronograph. But for the purpose of this video, we opted to take a look at this B20 model in 42mm and a mass appealing blue and black dial with two different options in terms of the strap versus bracelet. So as we dig into this portion of the video, I'll start by addressing the aspect of the watch that I feel is the most important to discuss first, which in this case is going to be the cost certified B20 caliber lurking within. Now this is a manufacturer caliber, but the base is not produced by Breitling, but rather by Tudor, who called the caliber the MT5612. Initially released by Tudor in 2015 and housed within models such as the Tudor Pelagos, the MT5612 was one of the subjects of Tudor and Breitling's intriguing partnership where Tudor utilized the B01 caliber in the Black Bay Chrono, while Breitling implemented the MT5612 in the SuperOcean Heritage 2 collection. Similar to Tudor, they developed their own naming convention for the movement, deciding on the B20. While somewhat novel in the modern luxury watch industry, this kind of movement trading used to be commonplace, with perhaps the best known example of this being Rolex's use of the Zenith El Primero calibers in the Daytona for over a decade. Wherever you fall on the in-house watch industry movement trading argument, it's nice to see something other than an ETA or Sellita caliber inside the SuperOcean, especially when considering the B20 is impressively spec'd with an extended power reserve of 70 hours, a variable inertia balance, silicone hairspring, Inca block shock absorber, and of course, that COSC certification for reliable timekeeping with a deviation of -4 to +6 based on that standard. In terms of general specs, we're looking at 28,800 vibrations per hour, 4 Hertz. It does feature hacking and hand winding when unscrewing that screw down crown, and then a power reserve, again, of 70 hours. When it comes to wear, we have a set of dimensions of 42 millimeters in diameter by 51 millimeters long in that case, and a thickness of 14.2 millimeters in thickness. When it comes to putting this one on the wrist, the watch is a bit of a trickier one to assess, as it is no doubt a larger watch, but I actually didn't find it wearing overly large, even at 42 millimeters and that lug-to-lug distance. In fact, I found the wearability more enjoyable than that of in-house 3-hand Black Bay models, given the slimmer profile to those by more than 3/4 of a millimeter. Now, the lugs also angled towards the wrist to some degree, providing some assistance to those with smaller wrists who do want to get in on this watch. Overall, the wearing experience is similar to that to, I would say, a 41 millimeter Tudor Black Bay with a more noticeably thin case. In terms of finishing and case design, the modern SuperOcean Heritage B20 exhibits a broader execution of the original reference's design language, and also opts for a polished finish that makes this watch deviate a bit more from the tool watch category, as it certainly has some flash to it. The case architecture is straightforward, with lightly faceted lugs and case sides that drop away from the coin edge of the 120 click unidirectional diver's bezel, which is secured with screws and complete with a ceramic insert that mimics the original 1957 model in its design. A signed screw down crown without crown guards takes up the usual 3 o'clock position, and the case back is simply engraved with the watch's basic capabilities. One area where Breitling always does shine though is with their bracelets and straps. The black variant comes equipped with a well executed Milanese style bracelet with removable screwed links, tapering from 22 millimeters at the lugs to 20 millimeters at the dual release polished clasp, which operates without any type of extension but is complete with 6 hidden points of micro adjustment within. The blue dial comes in a colored match rubber strap, charmingly textured to emulate the mesh, again tapering from 22 millimeters at the lugs to 20 millimeters near the clasp. Though this clasp is quite a bit larger in terms of width and features a slick button-operated ratcheting micro adjustment offering around a centimeter of extra room. In terms of adjustment, this one will need to be cut in order to shorten it, which could act as a barrier for those that might want to move on from this watch, say they wanted to sell it in the future, but still very well done. Taking up the watch's anterior surface, we have a slightly domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating applied to both sides and keeps watch over the classically styled dial lurking beneath. As an aside, the coating in this instance does create a blue hue to the crystal that some might not like. On the blue, it's a bit harder to detect, but with the black, it does clash a bit more. Now, where this watch does take a lot of the visual design from the 1957 variant, the dial features an updated take on the look with applied polished steel indices set into a primary dial surface with just a bit of shine, whether in blue or black. The date window is neatly tucked at the 6, making for a symmetrical and clean design. Though this watch features a fair share of dial text, we even applied Breitling B at noon and no less than 6 lines of printed white text as you travel towards the date window. The polished hands are in keeping with the original, with a prominent sword minute hand and a bisected hour hand, each filled with lume as well as a unlumed stick second hand. Speaking to the lume, other than the hands, the only lume is in the tiny plot sitting just outside the applied indices, and the overall glow is less than awe-inspiring, again helping to make the dress diver argument, though this should provide more than enough luminescence to get by in darker situations. But now that we've discussed kind of the overview of this watch, I want to get into kind of where this one sits and maybe why also it's overlooked quite a bit. Now, in the world of luxury dive watches, I think there are definitely some mainstays where people typically look. And the SuperOcean, I think many people should start looking at a bit more. Now, let's discuss the challenge though. Where it's currently sitting in the market is between probably 2 of the biggest powerhouses at the moment. You have the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 just above it, and you also have the Tudor Black Bay about $1,000 below. And as great as the B20 is, it is still using a Tudor movement. And when you're factoring in the Black Bay is going to be for less money, I think this presents the biggest challenge that this watch is facing, which is just going to be the competition in the market. And the dive watch market in terms of luxury watches is probably some of the most competitive out there. But with that idea out of the way, I think I just want to get into the core of why I like this watch. Now, this Heritage issue dive watch thing has gotten a bit out of control at the moment, but one of the early adopters of this trend was Breitling. And Breitling, unlike a lot of brands, actually have a leg to stand on because they do have some just history in this arena. And I think within this segment as well, this SuperOcean, there's other SuperOceans out there like the 57 Tribute as well, but this one I think carves out a nice little segment within a segment in terms of its styling. That Milanese mesh style bracelet I think looks fantastic. You're also getting a handset that looks very good. It's kind of a nice middle ground between the Breitling Flash that was kind of popularized in the late 2000s and transitioning into 2010s, while also keeping in mind their vintage type of styling that kind of got them to this point. Now the competition is certainly tough. You're dealing with a little bit of a larger case size, but when you look at this watch and what it's bringing to the table, it at least needs to be at the table when talking about some of the best luxury dive watches in that $5,000 range and under. This is certainly going to be on that list if you ask me, and it certainly is near the top. But all right guys, I'd love to see your comments down below about what you think of this Breitling SuperOcean 2. What would you like to see from Breitling as well in the future? Do you want to see more of this? Do you want to see other things from the brand? Love to see some comments down below. In addition to that, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Also definitely check out those new releases as well on TeddyBaldassarre.com. And if you want to stay up to date with the content, be sure to follow on Instagram as well. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.